Okay. Oh, you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. Sorry, were you waiting on me? Sorry, were you waiting on me? Sorry, were you waiting on me? Were you waiting on me? Were you waiting on me?
I saw everything from the outside.
I saw everything from the outside.
Phoenix has landed. Re-entry confirmed.
Time and space like an X-ray.
It's
It's just a single obvious thing. Time machine, go! What year is this?
What year is this?
2023? Is that when this was recorded?
My word.
My word.
My word. Well.
If you're watching this, apologies for the delay between episodes. We've had a couple grenades go off behind the scenes, and we've been in the process of sorting things out and reestablishing some sort of base level normalcy. A quick reminder that the IMPERIUS REX personalities you see before you, after all, are just fiction suits of your mild-mannered hosts, and sometimes reality has a way of sneaking in and rewriting the stories that shape our very existence. So having said that, thank you for sticking with us. I hope you've been exploring other extracurricular activities in the meantime. Re-entry confirmed. Stay tuned for more insights from the Invisible College. Time machine, go.
And so we return and begin again. The world turns our key. It's the start, it's the end. Our heads are all the same, large enough to contain the God and the devil, a palace, a rebel. Our sentence is up. It's time to go and let yourself become invisible. Create your heaven here on earth. Think if the unthinkable. Find your truth within the light. Jump off the edge and start to fly. Time to wake up, and say goodbye.
Hello there, Internet! Troy to the Max Extreme here.
Dinosaur Neil!
And Gideon Star Dave.
Whoa!
That literally just happened. I was even thinking like, oh my god, what am I gonna say? I don't know how to tie it in. Oh god! And then
Really
it worked.
good.
That was pressure.
Perfect.
Oh my god. Good to set the bar high and then just coast for the next 2.5 hours.
Ah, yes. And we, of course, are IMPERIUS REX.
And we are discussing the last volume in Grant Morrison's The Invisibles, Volume 1, Volume 3.
I did follow that.
And if that doesn't paraphrase the entire series, I don't know what will. This is Volume 3, Entropy in the UK, collecting issues 17 through 25. I'm going to assume everyone read them all.
Mm-hmm.
And essentially this ends the first third of the Invisible series, after which it relaunches with a brand new Volume 2 heading, and it renumbers it back to number 1 in hopes of achieving more financial success.
Comics.
All right.
Yep.
Yep. Playing the numbers game.
But before that, we will get to probably the most story-driven multi-issue arc of the entire series that we've looked at so far. And also, the most interesting King Mob has been as a character ever.
Naked in a chair.
Yep, doesn't take much. Some key themes that we've addressed up top in our very first episode that are especially prevalent in this volume are doubling down on the concept of fiction suits. Boy, do they ever. The nature of fantasy versus reality, the us versus them mentality, magic, of course, and the ability to find meaning in the seemingly mundane and, as always, time, change, and regrowth. You know, you got the syllabus.
All those nuggets.
So, where we left off last time, Troy, do you remember? It's been a bit.
It's been a bit. Yeah, I believe so. So, Jack Frost, he's out on his own. He's going to walkabout. He's going to find something else to do.
Right. So we can regrow that finger that he lost in that time machine windmill debacle.
Yeah.
One of those.
King Mob has been shot.
Oh.
And he's in a bad way. He's also in a chair.
That's right.
Yeah.
He's in a chair.
The gang is split up. We got Fanny also captured with King Mob. We've got Boy and
Ragged Robin.
They're
They
kind of
are
doing
still in the book.
They are doing their own thing.
Yes, they sure are.
And that's kind of where the team's at
Right.
right now.
And we also got a little sneak peek at a couple seemingly non-important characters and just kind of the collateral damage that takes place in this war versus chaos and order.
There's a Mr. Miles.
Sir Miles.
Sir Miles. Sorry. I call my son Mr. Miles.
Yeah, don't confuse the two.
Both just as evil.
So let's kick it right off. Entropy in the UK opens with a 3-issue arc giving us a look into the past and the head of King Mob, the most Grant Morrison of all Grant Morrison-inspired characters in this book. This is the arc where the two nearly become interchangeable as a person and as a fictional character. It also features the first appearance of Phil Jimenez on art duties, who would return to define the look and style of the book throughout Volume 2. He becomes the regular artist on the series. I would say his detail raises this from a kind of traditional 90s indie house style to something that looks like it was published by the Big Two at that time.
Yeah.
Bombastic superhero action.
Yep. And it doesn't even do a whole lot of superhero action in it. It just
mega detail.
mega detail in a Jimenez style.
Jimenez way. It reminded me a bit of the Chris Weston issue on Season of Ghouls.
Yep.
The voodoo one.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like his addition to the book.
I do too.
Sames.
This whole arc is essentially one big interrogation sequence. So it flashes back between King Mob's past, which are potentially false memories that he's created as a psychic defense, or a fictional character created by a novelist alter ego, or real experiences from Morrison's own life, or, as is usually the case with this book, all of the above. Perfectly suitable answer.
I think at multiple different times, I thought all of those things.
Yeah.
And then was fighting with my own self. I'm like, wait a minute. Which one do I like more? Yeah. Because at one point, too, I thought that, the some of the stuff was, also happening in, a different universe. And they were going to converge at some point.
Yeah.
Maybe that's just because everything now is all multiverse all the time and on all media.
I read it and I was just like, did Grant change his name to Kirk for a bit?
What did I miss something?
Nah, it's just the fictional character that might be Grant, which is Grant.
But it's also Kirk.
But it's also
and it's
Kirk.
also Gideon, and it's also King Mob. Yeah, so a lot of explorations of the fluidity of identity, I would say, in fiction suits.
Yeah.
I guess they're all technically fiction suits. So while Sir Miles, or Mr. Miles, in your son's case, attempts to unlock the secrets of the Invisible College from King Mob, Mob recounts a variety of past lives in an attempt to throw him off and buy time for his compatriots to come to his rescue. There's a lot of Agent Smith and Morpheus interrogating that seems inspired by this, along with the action-packed, like, full-team rescue in the end, too, right out of the Matrix. But you know what the Matrix doesn't have, gentlemen? Gideon Stargrave.
Very true. Imagine if
And it's
Austin Powers
horror for it.
strutted into with some Sir Bossa Nova.
Oh my god.
Walking by all those guys in trench coats.
Yeah, God. So Gideon Stargrave, an incestuous counterculture dandy, obsessed with overthrowing societal regulations and dead set on ending every adventure in a suicidal apocalypse. Austin Powers with a death wish. And a hard-on for his sister.
Yeah. God. At least he's got his Indian friend to tag along with him. Yeah.
Yes. And
Is it his friend? I don't think
somebody
so.
you seem to capture.
Somebody
who
along
didn't
for
get
the
off
ride.
the bus in time.
Yes.
Yeah, that's more or less it.
I also love in that scenario, they're getting chased by like attack helicopters or something. They hit a holy cow, and then finally he's just like, well, I'm prepared to take the coward's way out if you are. It's reincarnation or nothing. What a character.
I'll say.
And as he has a passionate kiss with his sister, they say the line, "We'll always have incest."
God.
Which for the longest time, I couldn't quite wrap my head around this, but they do say that incest is something that is, like, special for deities and royalty. So I guess Gideon Stargrave encompassed both of those, and it was just another taboo that he was dead set on breaking. And then killing himself.
I pushed that incest thing out of my brain. I know I read it now that you bring it up and was like, huh,
Yeah.
that's strange. And then I just decided to never remember that again.
That's fine.
Until today.
Until today.
Turns
where
out
I'll
time,
never
flat
forget
circle.
it.
Yep. All that incest is happening at once. All the time. Forever. So you can't push that out. Just as King Mob is Morrison's fiction suit for the Invisibles, it almost seems like Gideon Stargrave is King Mob's fiction suit within the story. And to build even more layers on this, we go down a rabbit hole within King Mob's mind, where we see that he also may or may not have been a horror writer named Kirk Morrison, as you already mentioned, who created the character Gideon Stargrave. This is like the moment... I'm sweating in this suit. I have to open it up here in a minute.
Oh, God.
This seems to be the most prominent moment in which Morrison just decided to let fiction and reality literally just become interchangeable. They essentially were just writing the life they wanted to live and decided, like, I'm just going to be a part of it. It's kind of like you got some of your fiction in my reality. No, you got your reality in my fiction type of situation. It can just all be one and the same.
Yeah.
So there's like these flashes to Morrison's own childhood, essentially, like him doing the punk rock days, him shaving his head in the bathroom, the trip to India, where a narration says something happens here, which I believe is the Kathmandu experience.
Okay.
So it's just all kind of sprinkled in there, and it's just like, it's all me.
It's all
This
just
whole
in the
book's
book
me.
now.
It's all Kirk.
Which seems like the perfect time to bring up a very specific part of this issue, where King Mob recalls an earlier trip to Egypt with his fellow Invisibles member and friend, El Fayed, the man who gives him that scarab beetle on the first page of issue 1. El Fayed asks him, why is our species so dedicated to the complete destruction of its environment? Why do our actions appear to run counter to our survival? And he compares it to a caterpillar on a leaf, which brings to mind the She-Man arc too, where caterpillar opens it up and becomes a butterfly. It devours everything in its path, but eventually it's transformed into a new being. Things repeat themselves on all scales, from the smallest to the largest. As above, so below.
Didn't know caterpillars were so important.
They're very important to the ecosystem.
Yeah.
Bad choice. As soon as as Gideon gets out of here, I think this coat's gotta go.
That coat has to be just sweltering.
It's 100 degrees in
I
this coat.
am almost kind of chilly.
This whole as above, so below works as a metaphor for the entire series, as we've said, haven't been shy about calling out the metaphor of transformation, transcendence, but also applies to Morrison's own life as they wrote this, because as King Mob is tortured and subjected to that viral skin disease, Grant also came down with a debilitating staph infection shortly after that, and began to literally have his face rot.
Ugh.
And almost killed him. So, as above, so below. And then this, if I could go down another little rabbit hole, please. Mind if I do?
Yeah, the rabbit's rabbit hole.
The rabbit's rabbit hole. This idea is also expanded on during a conversation between Robin and Boy, who are still in the book. They describe an encounter with a cancer patient who decided to embrace the cancerous cells as if they were animal allies. And they said that the cancer stopped growing and bonded to that person's vocal cords, sometimes taking control of his voice and describing other worlds or predictions from the future. So it was more of just like becoming friends with the sickness, embracing
He was
it.
down with the sickness.
He was down with the sickness. His mother got up
Yeah.
and got down with the sickness. So yes, not only does that echo the themes of embracing your enemy, uniting for a common existence, but it also seems to kind of foreshadow Grant's own decision to heal King Mob and start writing a better life for him, which, as the series progressed, seemed to reverberate through Grant's own life.
Yeah. You are sweating so much.
It's so hot.
All I can pay
so
attention to now is just your dripping.
Beads of sweat. Alright, let me... Before we can heal,
Let's just
peel
do the
this thing
dicking
off.
for a bit. Yeah.
Just the dick. Alright. Whew. We're all losing weight.
Yeah.
Neil, do you want to wear it?
No, God, no.
Eventually I'll strip down and just be like King Mob naked in the chair. But, on that topic, let's talk a little bit about that torture sequence.
Okay.
So I've said a lot of words. Why don't you take it from here?
I really liked the, like, Professor X, or I don't know how, like the style
Bald
of
guy in a chair.
Big ball guy
That's
in a chair
actually
right
not
now.
what I was thinking. I was thinking about like the mental guards that they put up. But bald guy in a chair makes a lot more sense now.
Okay.
On paper, bald guy in a chair.
Yeah, it works on a lot more levels than I had initially expected.
This
So
book, you know,
yeah.
a lot of levels.
Wow. But I really, really like that because it obviously Sir Miles is after all this stuff, and even Sir Miles is getting frustrated where his like doctor friend's like, we can actually cut his fingers off, you know? And, like, he's like horny for actually wanting to do like
he wants to cut some
mutilating him.
fingers off.
And Sir Miles is like, no, I do it my way. And
I'm gonna pretend to cut his fingers
yeah,
off.
look at this. Your fingers are cut off as he writes it and shit like that. But I like I like all the mental guards he puts up because even Sir Miles gets frustrated that like
Gets a little flustered.
he does that like you as the reader.
Damn it, Miles,
you're
you're
like
better than this.
Yeah, exactly.
Embarrassing yourself in front of Miss Dwyer.
You wait until I suck on
Gotta
this
make
titty.
me suck her teeth.
Yeah.
Get my nano milk.
Yeah. I love how that actually plays a larger role too. Anyway, like I love how he gets frustrated, but as the reader, you're also like, I don't know what's real. He doesn't know what's real. Grant might not know what's real. Kirk doesn't
Grant
know what's
certainly
real.
didn't know what the
Oh
fuck
my
was
god,
real.
it was insane.
I also thought it was interesting that King Miles, one
Oh,
day,
boy.
just get that bloody moonchild out of the seat. No, King Mob is a blubbering mess through the entire sequence, and you're like, fuck, like, is he just like a big pussy?
Yeah.
Like, it's all that posturing, just like he's this weakling, and I mean, like,
Kind of.
at the end, they pretty much say like, yeah, it was all kind of a trick, but you really don't know through most of it.
Yeah.
And he is able to, we'll get to it, we'll do the long form as we do, before we get into like the big ending there, but before he is able to strike, like, I don't know, he thinks he's getting pretty fucked up. Like, I feel like his fear and pain and emotion is quite real.
Yeah, he is Mr. Orange and Reservoir Dogs.
Oh my
through
God, he
a lot
absolutely
of this.
is.
Where it's like, I'm fucking dying, man!
Yeah.
Except with one collapsed lung, so he's like,
yeah.
talking like
So while he's being tortured, he is given a mind control drug called Key 17, which they describe as scrambling the perceptual information, making him unable to tell the difference between a word describing an object and an object itself. So when he's shown several scraps of paper with the word fingers on them, he perceives it as his own disembodied fingers.
Yeah.
Which I thought was kind of a cool little concept.
Yeah. I actually like how this kind of plays back towards the end of the book, too.
Chekhov's coffee mug.
Yeah, exactly!
And on top of that, there's another good Sir Miles, soon-to-be King Miles, moment where he goes on to explain the shackles of the alphabet. This guy's really got it out for the alphabet.
Yeah.
And spelling, like literal spelling. Do you remember this?
Yeah.
Okay. You've got a blank expression.
No, I'm listening to you. I'm just
Okay.
teeing me up for something.
All right, I'm teeing
for
you
a
up.
quip.
Yep.
Maybe I can get one in.
Yeah. You just edge yourself right in there. You stop me when you got a good one.
All right.
All right. Not right now. I've got a lot to say. So the alphabet, which is a mighty demon, A, B, C, D, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y.
You know how
That's
long
its
it
name.
took me to get that while reading that
Yeah.
book?
Is that why you didn't finish the book?
I
Are we
was like,
still in that moment?
Wait a minute. They're doing the alphabet, I think, in here. Let me start.
Well, what's funny is this, I had to double take back on it, too, because there are words in here where I'm like, I don't know what that is. And I'm not going to look it up to find out what it is. So, like...
I'm also not going to phonetically sound it out
Yeah.
in case it's something.
Yeah. And even phonetically sounding them out, I was just like, still have no fucking idea what this could mean. So when he just said the alphabet, I'm like, what could that mean?
What is he conjuring here? A demon! Implanted in the brain of every English-speaking child, the root mantra of restriction, designed to set limits upon humanity's ability to express abstract thought. Because what you see depends entirely on the words you have to describe it. So just the idea of language, essentially, and the alphabet limits communication.
Yeah. There's good thought experiments on this, actually.
Yeah.
I get that. Before I lose my train of thought,
Go. Hop on that black
there
train.
are plenty of, like, word blocks in this that they aren't speech. They aren't dialogue between. It's just like somebody's inner monologue and it's a word block. It is fucking nonsense. Right?
Yeah.
So, like, I'll read one, I'm like, should I dissect this? And then there'll be another one and be like, it's just saying a stream of thought. Like, am I going to get this proofread? Absolutely not. So that was littered through, like, probably the first 3 issues of this arc.
I think when when Miss Dwyer suits up, there's a big description of like all her cybernetic implants.
Yeah.
And that, we did talk about that. And that, it is weird because I feel like that was not in any other part of the book.
No.
It's just like, Grant really had some shit to write about these cybernetics.
He could have left it out. Because honestly, it did nothing for me.
There's a couple moments in this whole volume where we were talking about that, and we can touch on this a little bit later, too. Because, there are parts where you're like, is this a character at some point in their life, or is it...
Is someone saying this, or is it...
Or is it like Grant being like, I fucking wrote this gobbledygook, and someone's gonna print this fucking shit.
But that makes someone read this.
Yeah.
I'm gonna call it magic.
As he's delirious on his deathbed with a staph infection.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe this was a staph infection Grant.
Yeah. But then they made friends with it, and it all coalesced. They do cut out all of this, like, external narrator in the second volume. Like, it was a conscious choice. Like, that does not continue on. And from what I remember, I don't think it happened before this either.
No,
So
that's why I found
was
it like
very
so
weird.
out of place.
Mhm.
Because I'm like, is this King Mob saying this? Or is it just
No.
somebody saying this? Is it Miss Varicose Vein Titty saying this? Like, what is that?
Yeah, I don't know.
Also, do not care for the look of that Miss Dwyer
I didn't like it
robot
either.
suit. Her little
That
crab
Beetleborg?
insect. Yeah, yeah.
I thought it looked like a blue predator.
That, but all worse than all of those.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I thought the design of it was trash. Every time she, like, scuttled around and, like, fucking splooged out of her mouth or whatever that thing, she was doing.
Splooged
But
out of her...
those
yeah.
cummy
Out
little
of her
spider
box.
webs.
Yeah.
Got
Get
Fanny
this
real
fucking
good with those.
shit out of here. Why isn't anyone just stomping her right now?
She's a big bug.
Yeah.
Not that big.
Like human-sized.
And the
Well, I
vessels are all
guess.
human size.
Yeah.
It's not a Star Wars situation
Yeah.
where everyone's 100 feet tall.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah.
So, speaking of the character design of the monsters, the Outer Church members, what did you think of the design of the King of All Tears? Because we have seen him before. I'm not a big fan of that design.
Nah, me neither.
And they even call it out in this on saying, like, yeah, it doesn't look really scary. Looks kind of like a special effect.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, so you're acknowledging it. I like aspects of it, but I feel the face is so goofy looking.
Yeah, it's got a lot going on, and then a lot of it's hidden by a robe, and then it's got like some spines coming out for some reason.
Yeah.
I don't care for it.
I don't either. And like, I know they're just these like Outer Church abominations that like we can't even like conceptually identify, but I'm like,
they tried to conceptually do it on paper, and it didn't work.
Didn't fly. I thought it was interesting that Sir Miles is like fucking terrified of these people too.
Yeah.
Where he comes in, he's like, I've almost broke him. I'm still not 100%. He might be Kirk Morrison. I don't know. We're going to get to the bottom of it. And she's like, we need to do it now. He's like, well, I need a little more time. She's like, well, the King of All Tears is on his way over. You want me to bring him all the way down here? Yeah. He's like, no, don't bring him in. She's like, well, he's already here.
Yeah.
he just shifted in.
Yeah.
And like, I like the aspect that for that creature to come to our reality, like, physically like hurts humans in that presence. Like he starts bleeding.
Yeah.
And he's just like fucking terrified of him. Like he's bowing to him. So you have this like great big game hunter character who's always been cock of the walk. And you see him like servile to these other people. It humanizes him a bit more.
I love that he has to walk out. Yeah, I like that he has to walk out with a bloody nose, and the guy who really is jonesing to cut somebody's fingers off is like, you're bleeding, man. He's like, why don't you just give me a kerchief? Where's my handkerchief? Get me something.
It'd be better if he walked out with breast milk.
Nano machines, baby.
So I actually got to really like the Sir Miles character. Not so much. I just like him as a character on Nice Foil.
Yeah.
I wasn't quite sure of him in the last book so much, but then in this, I think it pushed me over the edge. I'm like, okay, I like this. He's such a control freak.
Yeah.
That he's like bound and determined to crack this nut of King Mob. I know you're fucking King Mob. No, I'm Kirk. Bullshit, I fucking know it.
No, I'm Kirk Mob.
No, you're not
Kirk Mobinson.
Yeah. I'm gonna go ask that bitch in there, okay? And she's gonna tell me you're King Mob. And then he goes in and asks her, like, no, I'm his girlfriend. And he's like, fuck! I love you. Hold on! Yeah. Bring that titty over here. I also...
Juice me up, Miss Dwyer. Send in the boss.
I like, too, that he's that guy, like, the suck up to his boss, too. So he's got that extra level of, like, shitbag to him.
Yeah.
Where he's like, I'll find out for sure. And sucking up to his boss is actually kind of funny here, because he sucks her tit to get some milk, or whatever, but
Get some milk. Get a little drink of milk.
yeah. To make his mind powers better of all things.
But
As opposed to his bone power.
I don't know.
His calcium power.
I also like, too, like, in his brain, he's got this pitch perfect plan to crack him, right?
Yeah.
And even the guy's like, why don't you just torture him for real? And he's like, no, I've already thought this through. I'm going to write things on paper and I'm going to show it to him. And he will break.
I got the big account. This is mine. I'm closing this deal. No. Don't send in the King of All Tears. No. I got this.
Yeah. Anyway, that's my that's it.
That's your little side.
That's my little side.
Nice work.
Thank you.
What are we talking? Oh, so key 17.
Yeah.
To end the whole spelling thing that was a while back. He's telling him basically like, we will tell you what. It's like a 1984 thing. You will know it's false, but we're gonna tell you what you need to believe, and you are gonna believe it. Even though you know in your heart it's untrue. And he gives him like the 4 fingers. He's like, I'm holding up 5 fingers. And he's like, no, you're not. And then you see it from King Mob's perspective, and he has like a 5th finger there. It's like, oh. So eventually Miles is able to break through a lot of King Mob's defenses. And one part that I really liked was he, like, finds himself voyeuristically watching a sex ritual between Mob and Edith. And it alternates between her as, like, this beautiful woman and this old crone. And it had, like, big Shining vibes to it, where just, like, the whole thing just seemed, like, so weird and dirty, and she seemed like almost this powerful goddess type of character. And apparently, I still don't know if it is completely explained at this point in it, but when Edith and Mob have sex, they do that to, like, locate things. They did it before to locate the Hand of Glory that we find later,
Okay.
and at this point it was to try to find Dane.
Okay.
So they fucked in the olden times where she was this young spring chicken,
Uh-huh.
and then once more where he basically had to, like, dust her off and prop her up in bed to find Dane. And that's when Miles' like, I've got it! He knows where Dane is, and he's gonna just tie a big bow on it and send it off. Send it up the chain.
Mm-hmm.
And also in those flashbacks, we see King Mob's own initiation experience. So we've seen a couple of the Invisibles members having their barbalithic moment. His is where he enters a giant underground plateau in Australia and stumbles on an enormous cybernetic fish. That just blows his mind. So he's given a vision.
I forgot about the big fish.
And it's never elaborated on. But the fish has, like, the barbalith red eye on it.
Yeah.
And then he's just like, it's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. I need a worm. But this just shakes him to his core, strips him of all ego and identity, similar to the other's experience, and basically foreshadows that in order to enter the next level of existence, you must shed all individuality.
Can you imagine?
Fish. Just some guy out in his boat, and he's just like, fuck this fish, man.
A big robot fish, and then everything makes sense. And you wouldn't have more questions.
I get it. I get it all.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fucking stupid.
Did you see this fish, though?
Yeah. Oh!
It's so
I
big.
get it! Fucking stupid.
You fucking bogan, mate. This is the big fish in a plateau.
Anyway, go on.
So if I could go on.
Sorry, I need to get that out of my system.
All right. So not a fan of the fish.
Not a fan of the fish. Yeah, I felt like his initiation thing, I guess, should have been like...
Not a fish.
Anything but, like, not just stumbling across something that's like, oh, now I'm like, I have this enlightenment or whatever. You just went through all of Jack Frost's whole deal.
Yeah.
And that seems like quite a trip.
Well, you were big on the aliens.
I fucking love those aliens. But this one just seems, maybe we missed all of the aliens in his.
I don't know.
It could be.
Maybe.
Maybe they were in the fish.
Just
Real
peeking
Jonah and the
out.
whale
Yeah.
situation. Well, I mean, it's all barbalith.
It's all
Barblefish.
But I do like, I was like, we have this whole big thing on Fanny. Excellent storytelling with all these gods.
Yeah.
Jack Frost has got all this shit going
Aliens.
on. Even Boy has some cool stuff going on, and then
Yeah.
it's like, that's a fucking cool fish.
That's a fucking
That's
cool
a fucking
thing.
cool fish.
Is that a submarine? No?
Yeah.
Just a big fish? Alright.
So Morrison goes on to say, this is talking on shedding all ego and identity. Morrison says, individuality is an illusion, so we aren't losing anything. Personality is a suit that we put on to move throughout time and will eventually be rendered irrelevant. So, to become enlightened, you have to shed all concepts of self, which is a concerning thought.
You think?
I think so. Because, like, hey, I like myself.
It's not so. I take it as like you shed like all of your ego, and it's like you just like, to put it as my boss says to everything, it is what it is. What a Midwestern thing to say.
Yeah.
And it just, and like you just take it as that, and it's like I that's how I interpret that more or less.
Yeah.
Like you do have your sense of self, but you don't feel like, I guess, self-important.
Not after you see that fish.
Nah.
I mean, you look into the eye of that fish.
Oh,
everything
that shit's it's all blown open,
Yeah.
it really sets a lot of things clear for you.
That's right. In his book, Our Sentence Is Up, Patrick Meany expounds on that concept and fish. He describes that idea as millions of cells working together to create a single entity known as a person. Eventually, millions of people will work together to create a single entity that is, to a person, what a person is to a cell. And that's kind of that concept of everyone uniting into this, like, ultimate being.
Okay.
And going into the super context as one.
Hands across the world.
Hands across the world, yes. And it also works backwards, the idea that we're all just one being growing throughout time. We believe we are individuals, but you can trace our entire evolution and existence backwards to one single being.
Then we're back at one. Brian McKnight.
That fish that crawled out of the ocean.
I know
dream
you like
come true.
Yeah, I saw you perk up. I know
That was good. Thank you so much.
All right. Yeah. Fish?
No.
Brian McKnight.
I'm over the fish. Fucking Brian McKnight, yes. I actually want to listen to the second we're done with this. That whole self thing, it's hard to think about in I don't know, in just the standards of how human beings are, because I guess that's what you could say community is. So you can have a community of things, but if we're talking about the whole scheme of human beings getting together, that seems like the most far-fetched idea I've ever fucking heard in my entire life. But, like, community I get. Like, smaller pockets of that make sense to me, where it's like, take our IMPERIUS REX Discord.
Let's take it.
Become a Discord, shout out to our Discord or Patreon,
right.
You can go through there. But
you could be one of them.
You could be one of them. That feels like we've reached that spot with, like, that community. Or it's like the IMPERIUS REX community, where it's like, we all, like, are all on that same level. We all feel good, and, like, there's a synergy there. So I guess the synergy is the word here. But it's just, like, it's so hard, like, that... The upper limit of that just seems unobtainable, and that's just kind of sad. But
I think what bothers me is, like, okay, you shed all of yourself, all of your ego, all of your interests. Then what's left? Like, what is there?
See, I don't see it as, I guess, shedding all your interest as much as your... Did I say self-importance already?
Yeah. But, like, your opinions on things, I don't know. I think you almost become like an empty vessel, I would think.
Well, it is what it is, man.
It is.
oh, Jesus.
And I would invite anyone in the comments below to shed some light on that.
Yeah.
Because that's a concept that I struggle with. Getting to that zero-sum moment of just, like almost you've been rebooted and you...
I could go for a hard reboot real quick. Start me at issue 1 again. I need a good reboot.
All right, go work at DC. You'll get start over right away.
So we also learn that King Mob's dreaming sigil is that of the Scorpion God, which we caught hints of earlier, learning that Mob owes old Baron Zargoen a debt. Could this debt be for the psychic attack that Mob uses to escape his creators later in this issue? Ooh. Could it be another case of all time happening at the same time? Like Fanny conjuring the god of death for assistance?
Ooh.
I don't know.
Good God.
But while Sir Miles is in Mob's head, Mob finally springs his trap. The Scorpion gods taught him how to destroy souls. And with the help of Fanny, who has created a Miles voodoo doll while imprisoned in the next room, they attack.
With a napkin?
Yep. Yeah. His handkerchief, his kerchief. They attack Miles and fucking wreck him and his scientist lackey.
Yeah.
Mob rips his aura right off.
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
That aura is fucking done.
Yeah.
Rip your aura off. I like also, like, his plan was, it was my plan to get Cat captured all along. To be inside of me so I can get inside of you.
Good thing you didn't actually dismantle my digit.
Yeah.
Real close call that it was just all a psychic torture. They did shoot him, though.
Oh, God, yeah, you wouldn't shut up about it.
I also love at the end he says, how many fingers am I holding up? Just 2.
Jog on. Fuck, yeah.
Gets him. Beat him in his own game. Sir Miles says, look at you. You won't make it. You're dying. He says, well, I'll die free.
Fuck, yeah.
Did it.
When this came out, how many people in America who were reading this knew what this meant?
None of them, I imagine.
Nobody's seen Hot Fuzz yet.
No. And another interesting tidbit from Grant's own life, the psychic assassin for the Scorpion God, this was apparently a magic ritual that they experienced around that time where Grant did speak with a Scorpion God and was instructed to destroy souls for him and also get a scorpion tattoo at the base of their spine, which Grant just proceeded to pass on to King Mob to shoulder the weight of that responsibility. He just wrote that he did it all.
Good on you.
Got him. So this arc ends with Fanny and Mob attempting an escape. Miss Dwyer and the King of All Tears suit up and prepare for the hunt. Meanwhile, Robin and Boy, still there, meet up with Jim Crow in an attempt to locate Mob and Fanny, with many stops for smart drinks along the way. And the last page returns us to old Gideon Stargrave recollecting a memory of being tortured before he and his sister toast to chaos and the destruction of the old world, perpetually standing on the edge of the super context. Stargrave farts like Gabriel's trumpet. Love, pop, fashion, magic. A new and tasty world rises from its bloody birth fluids, opens its eyes, blinks and grins, nice and smooth. So I thought it was interesting that it ends with Stargrave and he wakes up and he's like, oh, I thought I was getting tortured there.
It's flat circle.
Old Gideon hanging upside down from that antenna structure, which Tom took a liking to back in the magic issue.
Yeah.
Anything more on that?
Nope.
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 All right. How's everyone doing?
Ooh,
We holding on for dear life here?
Oh, okay. No, I'm more on board now than I was reading the book.
All right, as is usually the case.
I'll tell you what.
Yeah, tell
First
me.
3 issues as a summary right here, because it's like a good break.
Yeah.
While reading it, not my favorite. It's probably my least favorite so far.
Wow.
Really?
Yeah. I just thought it would, because before I started, you guys were like, hey, it's like the most straightforward thing so far. You might like it. I'm like, oh, okay. And went into it, and I thought it was almost too... There were parts of it I liked. Don't get me wrong. But I thought it was almost like...
The fish.
I thought it was almost too drawn. It was like a overextended torture scene with little highlights in there, but overall it didn't really wow me as something I would, if I was getting this month to month, I'd be like, this kind of is losing me here.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I was on the edge of my seat.
Ooh. But I will say, in this little interlude here, when it gets to Boy's backstory, I quite enjoyed that.
All right.
It was a nice little aperitif.
That's like a word
let's get
Grant
into
would
it.
use that I don't know what it means.
Me too, and
It's
I've
like
heard
a
you say it
palate
before.
cleanser.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
You know your food.
I do.
How's the bread making going?
It's great.
All right.
Bread's booming.
Bread's booming.
Bread's back, baby.
Bread's back in a big way.
It's rising.
Oh, that's the second pun he's had all day. He won't admit it, but that's the second bread pun he's had all day.
It was the second bread pun. Oh my god. I'm on a roll.
Cut it off. We're done.
All
We're
right,
a
that's
bread
it.
show
Class
now.
is out. Bread show now.
Hey, welcome to Bread Show.
Oh boy. So, speaking of boy,
Oh.
Troy,
What the fuck?
tell us about this.
Quit doing this. It's gonna make me on edge.
Welcome to my world. Tell us about this kind of intermission issue here where we go into Boy's backstory.
It's almost like a police procedural where oddities are kind of happening, and you find out later on that Boy is surrounded by, I guess not surrounded, but there's little placements of people who are already kind of in the know on how things actually work.
Mm-hmm.
And
It's like the world we know is just a sugar-coated topping.
Oh, exactly that.
Uh-huh.
But then she solves a little mystery about a funky little train.
Funky little train. Uptown funk.
What's funny, I guess this isn't the funny bit.
We'll
It's
still
actually
laugh.
cripplingly depressing. Oh, God. What I liked about this is, like, both the art and the story had a very similar vibe to the... Oh, fuck. Now I lost my train of thought. Sorry.
Gotham Central.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to start that up top again. Sorry, do it. I really enjoyed that very much.
Mm-hmm.
Michael Lark type
Yeah.
of style. This
Yep.
one was illustrated by Tommy Lee Edwards,
Mm-hmm.
and it's very fitting to this.
Mhm.
Boy starts out as like a big city police officer. Can't remember if it's Chicago or New York, but it's one of them.
Mm-hmm.
And she stumbles on just kind of this weird mystery going on, and suddenly like the cracks start to show up, and she realizes that there is this other secret world behind the surface. And basically, like, once she sees that, she can't unsee it.
Yep.
And now she's, like, stuck.
Mm-hmm.
Throughout the course of it, she uncovers this, like, mystery where people are being hauled away on a black, mysterious train.
Mm-hmm.
She has two brothers. One of them gets all aborted onto the
Yeah.
train,
Yeah.
and the other one gets killed. And she has to flee and become invisible.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think her police partner, is
Yeah.
an invisible.
Yeah.
And a couple other people she meets are too, and she's just realizing like how far this conspiracy goes.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought what was the most interesting about this is, unlike everyone else, she does not have a Barbalith experience.
Mm-mm.
It's never a positive for her. For her, she describes it as an apocalypse where the scenery cracked, she saw the ropes and pulleys and wires in the back of everything. And as a cop, essentially like an enemy of the Invisibles, her whole world is torn apart and there's nothing to like put back in its place.
Mm-hmm.
So her motivation through this entire series is not enlightenment or revolution, it's revenge.
Mm-hmm.
Which is very interesting for her
Mhm.
character. I think like that made me like her way more than anything else.
Yeah.
Well,
She's
up
like
until
not
now,
really.
she's just getting special drinks.
Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, she has no real stake in anything that the Invisibles are doing.
Mhm.
She's just out for revenge.
Yeah.
And along for the ride.
She's like an agent of order on the team of chaos. Because
Also, like a good mystery train.
Oh, you
Just
just
as a-
wait. You
Okay.
just wait, bro. And there's also a line in there where there's like a citizen that is like black bagged essentially and hauled off. And she says, "We didn't see a thing. A man turned invisible right in front of us and we didn't see a thing." So we get a little hint at the Invisibles meaning of the title. Like it's people that just disappear or shit that's just happening behind the scenes or right in front of us and we just don't pay attention to it.
Mhm.
Because through the whole thing, she's just very much like head down, headphones on, ignoring signs until they like slap her in the face, essentially. And she's forced to take notice of it.
Yep.
Whereas all the other ones, like Fanny, Mob, Dane, it seemed almost like preordained that this was
Yeah.
their path. Her, it was like, fuck, sorry.
Yeah.
You're invisible now.
Yeah. I liked it.
Yeah.
I dig it.
All right. How about the next little single issue arc where we meet up again with Dane
Okay.
as he returns to Liverpool.
Mm-hmm.
This is illustrated again by Paul Johnson, who did the alien abduction issue with Dane in the last chunk. And his return to his old life is very reminiscent of Alex in Clockwork Orange, if you've ever seen that.
Okay.
After he's like reprogrammed and he comes back and everything's different. He doesn't fit in anymore. Like everyone betrays him. And also kind of like Sutton, the Moonchild caretaker.
Okay.
The fact that like he hasn't officially like picked a side, he's kind of like an enemy to everybody, and he just doesn't fit in anywhere.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And Dane just goes through the ringer.
Yeah.
He just
Yeah.
So-
as insufferable as he normally is. He's even more insufferable in this, but you do feel bad for him because like everyone is just fucking him over.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
how long has it been? It even says that. It's been like
I think it's been a year. They
Well,
say.
yeah, it's been a considerable amount of
That
time.
color TV.
Oh.
Ooh.
Thanks.
There you go.
Thanks, babe.
And I love that his friend just grills him like, "Hey, what you got in that Tesco bag?" He's like, "I don't know, I just got it from Tom. Shut up. I've got
It's just a bag of cigarette butts. It means a lot to me.
Yeah. Yeah, but first, like, he meets up first with, like, his friend that he hadn't seen from he was probably in that school episode initially, or issue before.
Kicking Big Malky.
Kicking old Big Malky right in his mouth. But he meets up with him. Everybody, like, will always be like, hey, like, I'll be right back. Can you just wait there 1 second? It's like, both him and, like, his mom do the exact same thing, because he goes and visits his mom. Oh, like, it felt good and bad all at the same time, because, you know, like, you get introduced to her and she's like telling him to get out of her life and all that shit like that, but in this, like, she's got that little bit of sympathy for him, because he just kind of like breaks down with her, and like, she's just like, fuck, I don't know what to do, I've been shitty, I'm just gonna give you all what money I've got, and you just have to leave. That's her best form of sympathy that she can conjure up at the moment, but it's like, is she the only one that actually tries to, like, help him?
Kind of.
Well, Malky tries to help him throughout the whole thing. His
but
teacher.
we aren't kind of aware of that at the moment, but because I was also kind of, before we realized what the big twist with Malky is like, oh yeah, this guy probably still wanting revenge after getting his teeth kicked in from old Dane's trying to get him, but no.
When he meets up with his friend, that is just like, I was picturing it as if it would be a movie, and it'd be the most awkward scene.
Oh my god!
Yeah,
because both of them are just kind of like
too fucking cool for each other, and
like,
like
God, it sucks. I'm like, hey, look at this new stereo. Want me to put a CD in it? It's new.
Oh yeah.
We get a lot of flashbacks throughout this too. We get a little bit more insight on Dane's whole barbalithic experience. We get some select teachings from old Tom. Some of it seems more enlightening now, or like you get a better grasp of what Tom was talking about. When they're up on the building, Tom says, "Look at the city and the world in its proud array, like a cask of jewels laid open for you. It'll offer you everything you've ever wanted, but it's just pictures on billboards. Time to wake up and say goodbye." So, like, yeah, we realize now that the world as a whole is just a fucking fake. And the real world, it's a phony. There's a real world beneath it.
Oh, God.
Dane jumps from the rooftop, encounters Barbalith. We see our first look at the literal invisible college itself that seems to kind of exist outside of time and space. And then it goes on to establish a connection with Dane, contextualizing its message through the cultural gloss imprinted Christian Roman Catholic symbol structure, which is the lens in which Dane views spirituality. So, like, where Fanny had the Aztec gods, Jim Crow had the voodoo practices, Dane sees Jesus.
I love this. Are you Jesus? He's like, nah, man, but I'm going to look like him.
It's actually the aliens. Yeah. Jesus mask.
Hell yeah.
And then when the contact is established, Dane feels a familiarity with Barbalith, saying, "I know you," in which it responds, "Yes, you made me." Unclear if this refers to Dane or humanity in general, although in Morrison's theory, probably all the same. "You left me here, alone, transmitting, waiting for you. The string in the labyrinth, the way out. It's only a game." And then it shows him all of mankind's atrocities and says, "This is the world you made. The nightmare will persist until you wake up. What will you do?" Dane pledges to fix it, and it responds, "Then fix yourself. The world will follow. Everything will follow. As above, so below." That's a great line.
Yeah.
There.
It's like in Street Fighter the movie where
Yeah.
that's how they make Blanca, by showing him, they just put a TV in front of him and they show him all the bad things in the world and he turns into Blanca.
That's the opposite. They un-Blanca.
They un-Blanca Dane.
He's the anti-Blanca.
Yeah. But I thought that's a good message. Fix yourself and everything will follow.
Yeah, I like that.
Check yourself before you wreck yourself.
Essentially. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Chekhov's wreck off. So Dane decides his place is in the war, and he leaves his old life behind and joins Boy in an effort to save the other Invisibles and maybe humanity?
Let's hope.
But before that, he exhibited another little psychic hissy fit. Conjured up a spell that just wrecked his mom's flat and lays out everybody.
Yeah.
Everyone that was, like, converging on that location. The police were after him, old Malky, his mom. And he does that by using Tom's teachings. Tom says, cities have their own way of talking to you.
Yep.
Catch sight of the reflection on a neon sign and it'll spell out a magic word that summons strange dreams. So he pulls meaning from this random thing that's on TV.
Yeah.
And just says these seemingly unimportant letters, and it blows up the apartment, basically. It's very much like the Neo, he can see the code, and like he knows what to tweak in order to make it do what he wants there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So he fucks shit up.
Oh.
And I also love that when Boy, realizes what happened, she's like looking at all the bodies that have been knocked out. She sees Malky. She's like, oh, this is an undercover Invisibles agent. This is Mr. Six, one of the scariest guys on the planet.
Yeah! What?
I don't know how I missed this part, because I remember him seeing the magic word on the TV, and he's just like, I don't know, ba-ba-ba-boo! I can't remember what he says, and there's a whole fucking shitstorm that happens, but I totally forgot about Malky. Like, I don't remember seeing him at all. I also took a break between this issue and the next one I read where he shows up, seemingly out of nowhere to me, and he's just like, like he's got his goobery eyes.
Schloopy eyes.
I love... Well, that line is even funnier now that I've gotten further within the story, because at first you read it and you're like, okay, maybe this shit's for real. This old teacher's great. But as you've read it and we actually catch an issue of his backstory here, like, how the fuck is he the baddest man on the planet, or whatever she says?
They mean the most fucking shagadelic man on the planet. The grooviest man on the planet.
He can stretch his eyes out. Like, that's what he's got.
So, should we wrap this thing up?
Let's do it.
Let's jump back into the 3-part finale, where we return to the Outer Church prison, hiding behind the facade of the House of Fun, like magic shop that this is all taking place in. We have Steve Yowell return on art duties, essentially bookending the first chunk of the run, because he's the one that started it. Mm-hmm. But unfortunately, after Jimenez, it feels very pedestrian. The character models seem like way off to me. Like, Dane looks like he's a child.
A baby child.
Yes.
Yeah. Very strange.
And like the epic scope of all the chaos that is happening, like as Morrison is describing it in the narration, it seems insane. It's like Doom Patrol chaos. And what he draws is just like cobwebs and swirls. A big windstorm.
Yeah.
So I feel like that was a bit of a letdown. I kind of wish... I don't even mind him as an artist. I just wish he like maybe had a little more time to get wilder with it. Mm-hmm. It felt like a little phoned in to me. Mm-hmm. It's not bad, but it's not as good as what came before it.
Yeah.
That's true.
Essentially, in that House of Fun, the archons, archon, how do you pronounce it? Archons?
I was saying archons.
The archons are bleeding through into our reality, terraforming it, kind of like the xenomorphs do in Aliens, establishing like a hell on Earth there so they can have a good time, I guess. And like essentially it almost like is like a cancerous material that everyone in contact with it just starts to decay and break down. Like this King Mob and Fanny are getting sick. Mm-hmm. And they realize the only way to stave off this infection is to get that nanomilk out of Sir Miles. So they inject him and pump his own blood into them, and it fights off the cancer. And one more distinction between the two of them evaporated. They're blood brothers. They're all the same.
Sheesh. Yeah.
Sheesh.
I like that line from Mr. Six, too, because he's all up in there with Boy now, too. He's like, stay close or you'll get cancer. Like, oh, shit. He's the baddest man on the planet.
Good words to live by in any situation.
Yeah.
So, during all that, then Miss Dwyer in her predator suit is also attacking him and just causing a ruckus there.
Yeah.
King Mob bleeding out on the floor like Mr. Orange.
Yeah.
Ms. Dwyer is shooting ropes on Tell me that doesn't look like calm. It does.
I will not.
All right.
And Sir Miles still a bit sullen and salty from having his aura ripped off, if I can be honest.
To be fair, I found it very funny that, like, he's always there. He's always drawn in the back, but he's just
there.
like fucking...
No, he's just in the chair, just pissed.
Yeah!
A little kid that, like,
Yeah.
someone popped his balloon.
Exactly.
Outside the House of Fun, Robin and Jim Crow get drunk in order to summon Papa Gady.
Yep.
Because he says he'll get us through this in one piece. Put him behind the wheel of this bitch.
Yeah.
And then I also love that, like, once they're in, Jim Crow just tells Robin to, like, you better sit this one out, sister.
Yeah.
I like
And bring her along, and he's like, he looks at the door, he's like, ooh.
Oh,
no,
you don't want any
you
part
don't
of
want
shit.
this.
Yeah.
And then she just, like, sits down and
Yeah,
waits.
yeah.
It's like, always a bridesmaid.
Yeah.
Never a bride.
I like also before, too, when she, like, invites him to the gang, and he's, like, out on the rooftops or whatever, he's like, I'm gonna invite this being into my body. You'll be able to tell when I'm, like, cracking wise.
Says he, like, laughs out his nose. And I
Is
don't
that
know
how-
I don't know how
that
I always
is
go
supposed to-
Because I read it as he's saying whatever, he's like, hey, take a hit off this love gun. That's how, like he laughs like Popeye or something like that. That's how I read it every time.
Yeah.
Because I tried it once going like, and I'm like, that doesn't sound good. He's yelling,
Someone wants to send in their own impression of
Yeah.
how they read that.
Everybody
That would
send
be
it in.
fantastic.
Yeah.
How do you read Papa Gady's
While we're on the topic of Papa Gady, too, we gotta talk about his gun. Because it
Hell
makes
yeah.
a hell of a return, and he talks about it a
Oh
lot.
my god.
So it's his bone gun,
Bone
which we
gun.
love,
Yep.
which is fueled by him just fantasizing about sex and shit.
Erotic charged by erotic visualization converts sex into death.
It's fucking awesome.
Amazing.
And he blows somebody away with it, so he is probably fucking so choked to the brim as he blows this guy's head off.
couldn't tell because he's skull fucking his eyes.
Just all of a sudden, something's like poking out the eye.
Yeah.
His little jaw opens like,
Oh, and he calls it his Zozo gun. That is the technical term for that old bone gun.
classic.
But that's not all he has. He also, as he says, still enjoys cake.
Yeah.
So, like, you know I like cake. And he dismantles booby traps with a literal skeleton key.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Skeleton key shaped like a skeleton.
Yep, got it.
Expect nothing else.
Yeah.
And amidst all of that, Boy, Malky, and Jack also arrive. Malky and Boy stumble on a growing abscess in reality that's threatening to destroy the universe unless Malky schloops his way into stopping it. And Jack finds himself face to face with the King of All Tears.
Where he has a sit.
Has a
Yeah.
sit, has a little sit down.
Hell yeah.
So a lot going on in this first issue.
Yeah.
Troy, is this about where we lost you?
No, I'm still on board.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. So that brings us to the second issue in this arc, issue 23, The Last Temptation of Jack. And it takes us on a Christ-like journey through Dane's enlightenment, and for no discernible reason shows us a glimpse 20 years into the future to start the issue off. Taking place on December 22nd, 2012. Dane is seen cradling a friend in the streets. His friend asks, "What's it going to be like? Will it be scary?" To which Dane responds, "If you want, it'll be different for everybody." And that's it. There's no context given for that, but let me just hint that it was a pretty ballsy move to just drop that out of nowhere at the start of this issue. Because it does come back, that scene. But it is so oddly out of place here.
Okay.
Knowing that, like, Morrison had this part written, and there is a payoff to that.
Okay.
And it does bring to mind King Mob's desire that if everything is perfect, if, like, everyone achieves their goal, then everyone gets the world they want. That they talked about back in, like, that Arcadia arc when he was chatting with the old Marquis. So, before we can make any sense out of that, we jump back to the present. Dane confronts the King of All Tears as he makes a protective little circle from a pile of cigarette butts that Tom gave him. Turns out that was what was in that bag that he gave him. Thanks, Tom.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's just kind of the idea of creating meaning from nothing.
Mm-hmm.
It's nothing, but to him, it was like something that he could keep out, this monster.
Yeah.
Which makes me ask, do you have any materialistic thing that you have given meaning to?
Like
something that is, like, essentially meaningless.
Like a
but
totem?
yeah. Because my son, Roman, has a green blanket that I think your wife got him when he was born. He's had it since birth, and it is his favorite thing in the world. He sleeps with it. It's called Green Blankie. It is a member of the family. He has put so much meaning into this just random blanket. And for myself, like, I have a light gray sweatshirt that I wear every time I get on a plane for work. It's like, it's my traveling sweatshirt. And it's just like, it's just what I do.
Put me on the spot.
Yeah.
I know there's, like, little things that, like, my kids have made for me.
Mm-hmm.
That I put special meaning to, and I have them, like, hidden away.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't necessarily say I think that would be the closest thing, maybe.
Okay. So from there, within his little circle, he undergoes the trials and the gauntlet that the King of All Tears throws at him, reliving painful teenage memories of love, loss, inadequacies, visions of the future, visions of success, everything that this demon can do to trick him or tempt him. But throughout it all, Barbalith is there, hand in eye, with him, protecting him, guiding him, even when he doesn't know it. And Jack is narrating this portion and says, I'd have been fucked if I'd been on my own, but I wasn't. I've never been on my own. It never gives up on us. It saved me like it's gonna save us all, just like I told it to do when I made it. We made it to save us. And one of the future versions he sees is himself from the year 2012, telling him that...
The far-flung future
Oh,
of 2012!
Can't believe we made it.
Was that the Mayan calendar date of the... Okay.
The apocalypse.
Yeah.
It was, yep. Roland Emmerich made a movie about it.
Saw it.
John
Crap.
Cusack. Never saw it. Crap. So future Dane tells him that all of this training and spiritual enlightenment that they're forcing him to do is basically to transform him into a bomb that will detonate on December 22nd, 2012.
Spirit bomb.
Spirit bomb. Ghost Dad.
Yeah. Ghost Dad. Bill Cosby. Oh, fuck!
There's your spirit bomb.
To somebody's drink.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck! Demonetized. Oh, yeah, that's gonna put us over.
Yeah.
I'm talking about shooting ropes earlier.
So future Dane tells present Dane that he's essentially just being made to destroy the universe as we know it. And is this true? We don't know. After all, the Invisible's mission has been to elicit change and to reach the super context and evolve past what came before it. The difference is that Dane no longer fears the future. He's become enlightened, whereas the Outer Church and the King of All Tears are clinging to the status quo. So for them, whatever change is bad.
I took this when present Dane meeting future Dane as the King of Tears trying to, like, trick him.
Mm-hmm.
There are multiple instances of that, but I never knew what was real and what wasn't.
I think it's all trickery from the King of Tears, but I think some of it is real. I think he is showing him real things.
Okay.
Because I think everything he showed is basically real. He's showing him things from his past,
Yeah,
like
that's
just
true.
horrible things that like eat you up inside.
That one memory that he
His
held on
old
to.
girlfriend.
Yeah, that.
Oh, God.
And then I thought, he's like, well, look at me, I'm a bony fucking rope fucking goon shooting ropes.
No, he doesn't shoot ropes. She shoots ropes.
I thought he was gonna, like, try to pull one over on him, showing him, like, oh, don't, it's me from the future. Don't, Marty, no. Yeah, that kind of shit. But
does he show him his death, too?
Yeah.
Okay. I thought that was in this segment,
when they
too.
say, when he's like, oh, he's 60, but he looks like 120.
Yeah.
Well, let's get lunch. Yeah. Right. He's dead. Let's get lunch.
Yeah, we gotta get lunch. Good timing, man.
This is where you see him almost in this like Buddha state, and you see like past Buddhas basically like time-worming back through existence. And the narration reads, I thought I was Dane McGowan, but Dane McGowan was one of the things we made so we could experience the end. So at this point, he becomes cosmically aware, basically one with everything in the universe, evolved beyond his individual self, and is essentially at peace in the super context, the utopia that he's striving for. And by doing so, he's almost removed himself from the conflict on Earth entirely. And that was like the King of Tears trick there. Like, okay, get him off the board, give him what he wants, and then he's done. But, and also that seems to pull very much from Morrison's own abduction experience at Kathmandu, when he's describing like the 2D image that becomes a 3D image, it becomes a 4, 5, 6, and it just keeps going through layers and layers of perception. So a lot of the craziest shit that happened to Morrison, or Morrison presumed happened to them at that time, all kind of happened around this chunk of the Invisible story. And they worked it in.
I wonder, does he, because you've read this before, elaborate more on this later? Because I kind of took that away as like, oh, he's talking about some real heavy shit here that I remember hearing in a story before, but it seems so simple here. Like in the context of what he's, and maybe it's the artwork that goes hand in hand with it, because like, well, I saw a bunch of triangles.
There's
like,
a lot of fucking triangles.
I'm like, but that doesn't seem, it doesn't, I almost doesn't seem like
it's
heavy enough of an idea.
Right.
Yeah.
I think in description, this is pretty accurate to what Morrison seemed to perceive, but I think there is something later in Volume 2 that might be visually closer, too.
Okay.
I think, like, Morrison feeds in a lot of different things into this story, but this seems like kind of the big one, and it checks out in terms of, like, the timing.
Okay.
They were probably still kind of, like, wrapping their minds around that experience, and they just started, like, kind of
workshopping it.
Yeah, peppering some of these pieces into it.
Right.
Yeah, the King of All Tears trick seems to work. Dane is like, okay, I'm enlightened. I am enlightened. I'm done here. But Barbalith kicks back on, reboots him, sends him back down to Earth with a message from Jesus. Jesus telling him, you need to get your ass back in the game, Dane. Sends him back down to Earth. Jesus essentially being...
I didn't die for your sins for nothing, bitch.
Yeah. And Jesus says, I am not the God of your fathers. I am the hidden stone and break all hearts. Break open your heart. Come from below. Rise unto the heights. Descend again with knowledge. And this is a quote that Grant basically had verbatim in this hallucinatory vision that they had when they were sick with the staph infection and were like on their deathbed. He perceived Jesus walking into the room and saying that to him. Like, what a fucking weird... That is why I love this book, because, like, it doesn't really make any sense. It is just Grant's way of, like, finding meaning in their own life, in, like, telling it in this crazy action sci-fi story.
Yeah. Okay.
And I think, like, that could just be a huge turnoff for an average reader, where they're like, this is nothing. It's like, well, it's Grant's life.
Yeah, it's everything to at least one person.
Yes. Yeah. So, with that information, Dane jumps back to Earth, I guess. I don't know if he ever left, but he's back, baby, in a big way. He recalls his transcendent experience where he knew and was one with everything, and beats the King of All Tears by threatening to call him by his true name.
Yeah.
Because he knew everything. He knew the name. They don't say the name.
Greg.
I was going to say, how embarrassing is his name? It's probably Marion.
Yeah.
Fancy.
Oh, no.
And Patrick Meany elaborated that the unknown is scarier than the known. So by knowing something, that thing is less other than it was before, so that's how he is able to beat it. He feels more of a connection to it by knowing its true name.
It's the whole, like, Wizard of Oz situation. He's like, I know the man behind the curtain, and then, like, the wizard peeks out of the King of All Tears, and he's like, oh, no! Yeah. It's in a hot air balloon and flies away.
Pretty much. Flies off to the future.
I don't want to land this thing.
So, yeah, the king is so embarrassed by his Christian name that he disappears, and says, like, I'm going to attack you later. And he does. But we're not there yet.
Wow.
Jog on.
Wow.
And elsewhere, Fanny and Mob defeat Predator Miss Dwyer by injecting her with that Key 17 drug that they just had an extra vial laying around, and showing her a coffee cup that was deliberately shown earlier that says "World's Greatest Dad."
Yeah.
So it makes, you know, what you perceive real. So she sees the best dad.
Yeah.
Her dad, greatest dad in the world.
Best dad.
And just like drops to her knees. It's like, Daddy, I'm so sorry. Like they made me into this thing. And then old fucking Papa Gady comes out, gets that bone gun, and inflicts some bone justice on her.
I love bone justice.
Oh, who doesn't? But I also love, too, that I'm assuming he kills her, but he kills her with love. Like, he's turning love into
violence. Into death.
Yeah, love into death. So the Invisibles, like, they've got a different way of fighting their battles, I guess.
What I enjoyed...
except King Mob, who just fights everybody.
Yeah,
I
I
just
shoot him in
watched
the
a
nuts.
sweet Pornhub vid. I will fucking kill you into the next decade.
Oh, you're gonna get step-sis right into next year.
Stuck in a dryer, bitch.
So...
It's Dwyer in the dryer. It's a real Dr. Seuss type of scenario.
What I enjoyed about this, so Dane shows up, like, once Dane gets enlightened, like, he essentially beats the King of All Tears, and Fanny and Mob really just beat Miss Dwyer.
Yeah.
So everyone else just kind of shows up and be like, I think we fucking saved the place, and they didn't do a goddamn thing. Like Papa Gady, Ragged Robin, Boy.
Malky whips around like...
Yeah. Oh shit, I wasn't looking in the right spot.
Last place I look. Every time.
God damn. I'm supposed to be the baddest mamma jam on this planet.
Just the baddest at fucking finding something. But there is an interesting thing with Malky here, because he does single-handedly seal the abscess that's about to destroy reality.
We need to
And
talk
he does so in the weirdest fucking way.
Because they talk about this sacrificing his
persona.
Yeah.
His fiction suit, his self, his ego, whatever. And this is in a book where the very idea of all of that is fluid, and you can be whoever. But he has been Brian Malcolm for 9 years, it says. And before that, he was Mr. Six, I guess, this undercover Invisibles operative.
Right.
But, like, he offers that personality up as a sacrifice. And it's hard to gauge, like, what level of sacrifice this really was.
So
because it didn't seem like it was that big a deal. Like, yeah, just take the fucking credit card and driver's license. Yeah, you got him. He's done.
Yeah.
Shaloopy eyes and all.
Yeah. Well, I thought it was going to be more severe, I guess, because
it seems like he dies almost. Like he walks out but then he's right back over here.
And then,
he's one of those I'm standing over here.
Exactly.
Now.
He comes back and they talk to him, and then he talks as he's fine.
Yeah.
So I found that very strange. I'm like,
just like, I didn't really like that guy anyway.
Exactly.
That
Okay.
ED.
Yeah.
That was a real pain.
I get chubbed up all the time now.
I don't have to borrow that love gun anymore. Yeah, I really like that idea of it, that, like, he sacrifices a part of himself, or whoever he is at that moment, and he's left either as a blank slate, or as, like, other personalities he's had. But it doesn't seem like that big a sacrifice. It's like, I've got plenty.
Yeah, well, for the amount of...
Oh, I can't be the school teacher anymore.
Exactly. I can't...
Bummer. I don't get kicked in the face. Fucking pain.
I thought that too, where it's like they devoted a lot of time to it for it to be really not much, I guess. But
the fact that you see him perfectly fine, like, a page later.
Yeah, right.
And if, like, you found out, oh, he is okay, he's Mr. Six, as you see in the next issue, maybe that would have been a bigger thing, but it's like, I don't know, he's okay. He's over here now.
Yeah.
So I like the idea, but I feel like, I don't know if I would have maybe put a little bit more grandiose impact on it. So to recount where the rest of the group is, there's also Robin, who's just presumably been sitting in front of that door for this whole fight. She's been absent through most of this, but she has a couple kind of seemingly throwaway moments that do lead to larger payoffs down the road. I'm just going to list a couple off here, keep them in your brain. Jim Crow comments on a specific bracelet she wears, and he also inquires about the year of her birth, which she says it's like 1988, and he's like, interesting.
Now show me. Can't be right. Yeah, now walk in front of me so I can see that ass.
We're going to get to the bottom. We're going to find it. She also examines a photo that is described as the key to the structure and meaning of the universe. It almost looks like an atomic bomb blast or something. And there's also a moment, this is like a complete throwaway thing, but it was just kind of interesting. She cradles King Mob in her lap as he lies dying there, and she comments, "That's so weird, I've done this before." And earlier in the previous arc, when she's training with Boy kicks a mannequin's head off, and the mannequin lands in her lap just like that, and it's a shaved head mannequin. Means nothing other than like just kind of a weird little deja vu playing out.
Oh, more Matrix stuff.
More Matrix, a lot of cats.
Oh, God.
A lot of hats.
I don't know if there was any cats.
No, neither. No hats either. And then finally, the Invisibles regroup, and Dane conjures, and by conjures I mean belches up a magic mirror in order to heal King Mob from his gunshot wound. And then he does the same for Sir Miles, returning his aura and saying, "Nobody knows what I am." And it ends with them deciding to flee the country, cocking their pistol, and heading to the big US of A.
Yeah.
Another Popeye pun. I am what I am.
It is what it is. Well. So that pretty much wraps up the first third of the book with one last very strange epilogue to the entire thing.
Yeah.
The most oddly out of place issue in this entire thing, I would say, issue 25, 6.5 dozen of the other is what it's called, with artwork by Mark Buckingham. In this, we're finally introduced to Division X, which is a group of retired agents that we've been getting like little glimpses of throughout these last like 12 issues. And we're reintroduced to the late Brian Malky, now looking positively shagadelic as Mr. Six persona. I'm going to throw the jacket on one more time. I think I've cooled down enough that this is just a nice cold sweat that's sticking to my back now.
Nice.
You may wonder what this is doing here.
Yeah, a little bit.
And you'll continue to wonder until you forget about it entirely, and it finally picks up this thread 26 issues later at the beginning of the very last volume of this series.
Wonderful.
So maybe we'll touch base on this one more time before the end. But this is basically written as a tribute to 70s cop shows that Morrison grew up on. Division 6 are hired by the government to bring in the Invisibles, seeing them as like a terrorist threat. I love that they just all drive around drinking martinis.
Yeah.
Like, all of them are just basically like driving this big taxi, running people off the road.
And this takes place in like the 90s.
90s,
but they dress in the 70s stuff.
For no
they
reason.
make that comment or whatever.
Yes. So they investigate the House of Fun, they beat the shit out of criminals for information, and attempt to piece together basically all the events of the series so far, but like from a private investigator's perspective. We're also introduced to Mr. Quimper, a tiny little masked man involved in producing alien moonchild porn.
Seems problematic.
Yeah. And was, I believe, responsible for providing the mirror to Sir Miles, which leads to the conception of the moonchild.
Correct.
From whoever the daddy moonchild was banging in that porn, I guess.
Yeah.
Lots of allusions to double agents. Specifically Mr. Six, who is a covert member of the Invisibles. And one more thing here. There's a creation story, another creation story, about a wise lord who created the universe in order to lure a destructive spirit who only wanted to inflict pain on its inhabitants and trap him there. And I believe this caged god idea comes into play later in the next volume, but I can't recall all the specifics.
Okay.
What I will say about this one, it's extremely British.
It is
It's almost hard to read British.
alarmingly British.
Yeah.
But, like, also a lot of fun once
Yeah.
you get into it.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like if you read this one,
Yeah.
this would probably be your favorite issue of the series.
God damn it.
Just a bunch of bros,
Yep.
British bros
It's
going
like
out.
3 Austin Powerses going out.
So, Troy, tell us where you fell off.
So,
Where you fell behind in class.
I got all the way up to when Mr. Six, like, saved everything.
Okay, so you pretty
got-
much got...
You kept talking, I'm like, no, I read that. And then it's like, oh, and then Schloopy over here, he sacrificed himself. I'm like, nah, don't remember that. But that's it. That's the only chunk I missed.
You didn't
Okay.
miss a whole lot then.
No, you could catch up.
Yeah.
Here's a little something to light a fire under you. The next volume, 4 issues.
Woo, boy.
4 issues long.
I guess look at it, because I read it on my tablet, I had like what seemingly looked like 80 pages left. And I'm like, oh my god, I'm never going to finish this. Because I knew it ended at 25.
Mm-hmm.
There must have been some back matter to it.
Yeah.
Or something
So
like
there is. If you're reading the same thing I am, and you were telling me there's like there's a few pages of stuff that we'll probably catch up on later. It's like a little short 8-page one-off or something like that.
Oh.
So
Yeah, there's a separate little story that was written for like one of the Vertigo like winter special collections that is a little King Mob piece that they included in the volume 2 hardcover that we're reading digitally. There's so many ways that this series is collected. Split across 7 volumes, 4 hardcovers, or 1 massive omnibus. We're just reading it that way, but the shows, the class, the syllabus is broken up by like the original trade release order, which is 7 trades. There is this one weird one-off called something like And We're All Policemen or something like that,
yeah.
which doesn't really fit anywhere, but I think I'm going to save it to the end.
Okay.
So when you get to
Sounds
that,
good.
skip it.
I will.
All right, so that is it. That takes us to the end of this volume, Volume 3, Entropy. And why can't I ever say it? Entropy.
Entropy in the UK.
I keep wanting to put another K in there.
Oh.
Entropy in the UK. What did we think of this one, everybody?
I personally quite liked it. I know you were saying you were getting a little bored through it, but I actually didn't find that to be the case at all for me personally. I actually really liked all the stuff where it was like, 75% of the story is King Mob strapped to a naked in a chair. And I actually enjoyed a lot of that stuff and the stuff that they dived in through beyond that. I like that we got an idea of what the fuck is going on with Dane. Like, that's been... Like, because that kind of confused me beforehand. But this, like, made it make a little bit more sense. Not a ton, because it's like, everything's just telling, oh, just remember. Just remember. And you're like...
Remember harder.
What? Oh, what do you mean? But it's just like, that's not the point. But it's like, it's, I enjoy where this one is going. It had everyone involved in some point or another, which is nice. And that's it. I enjoyed it.
If any character took a back seat in this one, I would say it was Fanny.
A
Just
little
very
bit.
little.
A little bit, yeah.
But we did just come off like a whole arc on her, which was one of the better ones.
Yeah.
It seems like every couple issues they dedicate like an arc to fleshing out one of the Invisibles members. So this one was definitely King Mob centric, and quite a bit of Dane as well.
Right.
But there's still a couple that are lacking. Like we've got nothing on Ragged Robin yet, and we got a good chunk of Boy, but I don't feel like we get a whole lot more than that ever either. Of all the characters, I think she's like represented the least, unfortunately.
Good at karate, though.
Very good at karate.
I think overall, like, as I said before, while reading this, I feel like this one is also more all over the place. where it's like doing non sequitur, like let's just say take the first 3 issues where it's jumping to some groovy adventures over here, and then you go back to boy in a chair, and then you got other. It just seems like he was throwing a lot of ideas,
but they're all King Mob related, right?
Yeah, well, yes. And it's not just so much that it's like who it deals with. It's like,
is it still just because you don't fucking like King Mob?
it might have been. Well, early on, it probably was. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, what is fucking going on here? Final thoughts. So overall, I don't think this one was my favorite read. I felt it was a tad.
I feel like you've ended every episode with that.
No. Even looking back at the rest of them, I'm like, okay, like coming out of those, I'm like, okay, that was all right. I like that one. But for whatever reason, I think this one just never really struck a chord with me. There are parts of it I do like.
Do you think it would have helped if you finished it?
No.
Will you finish it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I only have apparently a page to read.
Yeah.
And another issue about the grooviest
Yeah,
Division
yeah,
X.
yeah, yeah.
Division 6.
But I don't know. Like,
It's interesting because I feel like this is the most story-driven
Yeah.
it has been so far. I feel like, other than setting up in the first issue, that there's, like, the Invisibles in the Outer Church and Dane gets recruited, and then, like, it goes on to magic for several issues, and then it goes into the weird time travel thing, and then it goes into, like, the intermediary characters, and then it goes into Fanny's backstory. This is, like, the only time where it's like, oh, okay, this is, like, now there's a plot where, like, they're actually fighting the Outer Church for almost the first time.
Yeah.
I guess I didn't like the way they did it.
Right. I will say it is a little, like, kind of, like, surface level that they just, like, suit up in bio armor and, like, fight.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I didn't really like that part.
That almost seemed too mainstream for everything that this is set up so far.
Yeah.
The King of Tears stuff with Jack Frost, I actually liked.
I
Like,
did
that
too.
stuff, like, him trying to penetrate, like, his mind and make him think the way that he wanted to kind of get him out of the picture. I really liked that. That it was just a mind battle. It was like the end of Legion type thing, or it was just like this big mind battle going on. And but the other bit I did find kind of weird, that like this lady in like a bug suit, a bug exoskeleton suit, didn't just butcher this guy who's dead already, essentially, and someone who's trapped in her cum. Like, like
She's a squirter.
she just kept like running around the ceiling and shit. Like, you feel like you could just torn to shreds if that's what they were after.
Yeah, what was she doing that whole
To
time?
shreds,
Just
you say.
Oh, yes, thank you.
you.
Got one in.
Yeah.
But like, think about
I
that.
felt like that too. Like, Fanny was trapped there for a long time in that web.
What's she
Yeah.
doing? Just skittering around?
Yeah.
Unhinging her jaw.
Her mandibles, they say it sometimes.
Just like, feed. So that's the only bit that I found a little lackluster in, like, the boss fight kind of thing going on. But, ooh.
Yeah. I will say, like, the physical action felt a little lacking. The Don't look at me! The psychological action of Dane in his, like, you know, trials and tribulations there, I thought was great.
Yeah.
I really, really liked that.
Yeah, I think both with the Miles and the Dane, the psychological parts were interesting. I guess I just wish it was almost not as, like... I wish he didn't try to throw everything into it. I wish it was almost like a clearer vision of what he wanted to do, I guess. Because for me, like... It's not like I'm stupid. I understand what he's doing, but like he was trying to throw a lot in it at the same time and throw a lot of heavy ideas in. Like, I think this would read a little bit better if you just like simplified the idea. And maybe I wouldn't have liked that. I don't know. I thought it was already kind of like they weren't hopping around as much in this. Like, it was more story-driven, and I didn't like it as much. So I don't know what I want.
Oh, man.
I don't know.
How would you rate your Invisibles experience so far?
I don't know.
All right.
Fair middling.
It is what it is.
To me, it's not blowing me away.
Okay.
And that's me going into it not having any supplementary material at all. I want to read it as like I would have first picked it up.
Have you thought about it at all since you put it down? Like, after we have this discussion, is there anything that, like, kind of sticks with you? And, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, I tinker with it. And
Okay.
Like,
all right.
and try to, like, unpack some of the heavy ideas that they're doing.
Yeah.
I think this discussion is where that comes from. It's not from me reading it. If I were to read it, there's a lot of stuff that goes over my head to where it's like stuff you're getting from your book by Meany,
book there.
your book by Patrick Meany, or
Cute
stuff
book
that
here.
like either Patreons or
The Invisible College Discord.
Invisible College Discord, or any of that, other of that stuff. Like, that's what's kind of giving me more of the thought-provoking stuff. Like, me just kind of reading it, it's kind of like how we actually did, our last live stream event of Sandman,
Yeah.
where it's like, when we got together, that's when we're like, like, it's all shit, this fucking rules, or like, that's where I'm getting the meaning from all this, and where it's most thought-provoking for me. But I do go back and think
Same
on
for me.
that.
And
Yeah.
this is essentially the climax of the first big arc of this too.
Right.
So like the first 2 volumes were a lot of setup and it establishing the universe, all these fun little like divergent stories. This is where like Morrison had to actually like, all right, I gotta like wrap some of this up here and like give it some kind of ending essentially, or some kind of payoff until the next chunk. So there is, I would say, less heady topics, but still interesting. It's a little more plot driven.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Rather than big ideas.
Mm-hmm.
If I were to, like, put it up next to, like, his Doom Patrol, where I know it's just weird for weird's sake, and, like, they're not trying to, like, change the world in the way you think or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I still prefer, like, a Doom Patrol action-y type of ending where a lot of odd stuff is happening just to be bizarre.
Yeah.
Whereas this is, like, bizarre, and I'm like, but why is it?
like the fish.
Yeah. It's not, I know it's apples and oranges.
Mhm.
I understand that, but it's a bad tasting apple
Oh
to a nice navel orange to me.
no. Okay.
Yeah, it's a red delicious.
Yeah, but sometimes I like a red.
No, you fuck, you are.
Delicious in the name.
It's the worst fucking apple. I don't want to.
It is far from the worst apple.
I don't
A
wanna
red
get into it.
delicious.
What are the yellow ones? Granny Smith? Or is that a green?
No, a
That's
yellow
pretty-
delicious.
No,
They are
sounds
yellow.
pretty good too.
I don't want to talk about it.
You ever had a crab apple?
Yeah,
Oh.
they're better than a red delicious apple.
You are fucking out of your gourd.
I need a handful of dirt before I eat a red delicious apple.
I will hold you to it. I'll eat dirt.
Next episode.
I'll
Neil's
sit
gonna
here just eat a juicy, delicious apple, and you can eat shit for all I care.
I didn't say shit. I said dirt.
Neil's gonna grow in the dirt.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So that was the conclusion of the first big arc of the Invisibles. Next month, something a little different. Still the Invisibles, not that different. Sorry, Drew, I got your hopes up. Next month, Volume 4, Bloody Hell in America. Or Volume 2, Book 1. Depending on how you want to look at it.
Nice.
If you're reading the trades as we are structuring this book club, it's Volume 4.
Okay.
And Phil Jimenez returns on art for, I believe, the entire chunk of this whole second chunk. A lot
Nice.
of chunks in this.
Nice.
Big chunky volume. So, thanks for joining. Feel free to comment with any questions or insights. But until next time,
I've been Troy to the Max Extreme.
I've been Dinosaur Neil.
and I've been Ghost Hunter Dave.
And we've been Imperius Rex. School's out. See you next time.
Wow. Pretty serious.
The main thrust of the story is pretty simple. It's a man who is captured trying to escape. Like
Man in a chair.
man in a chair trying to get out of that chair.
Yeah. God. Look comfy, though.
Yeah.
I don't think so. It was a big metal chair.
Oh, yeah. I'm picturing Professor X's chair.
A big comfy
That
yellow
looks-
slider.
Yeah,
Yeah, it is.
God, do you think he could recline that thing?
Oh, yeah.
Just
Yeah,
like-
obviously good. I mean,
Yeah.
he's not going to feel in his legs.
Do you guys think that Professor X and Alistair Smythe had the same chair makers?
Hell yeah, they
chair
did.
guy.
Oh, they both had the same chair guy?
Who's the Junji Ito human chair guy? There's actually a body behind both of those.
So, he could actually be down where the legs are. They can't feel it at all, man.
That's a foot guy just rubbing them feet.
What are your thoughts on Alistair Smythe?
I hate Smythe as a human, but as a kid
As a
watching the
mutant?
90s Spider-Man, when he got mutated, I thought he was the coolest fucking villain in the world. I fucking loved his weird gargoyle tentacle thing.
Yeah, and they shot lasers?
Laser shoulder blasters and his goat legs.
I love the goat legs. You know I love a good goat leg.
Oh, I know
Remember
you do.
Ultimate Fantastic Four, Ultimate Doom?
yeah.
Love those goat legs. Yeah, love Smythe.
I just love Kingpin was bullying Smythe.
He did.
Your spider slayers failed me again, Smythe.
The funny thing is, like, it got to the point where, like, they brought in that, like, Landon, or whatever the mutated Two-Face guy was, and, like, the two of them were kind of, like, pushing Smythe out, to the point where, like, Smythe needed to get out of there.
Yeah.
Smythe needed to see the writing on the wall there.
Come on, Smythe.
Where he got dipped into that mutagen tub. That for some reason turned him into this
Whatever that was.
this capable of walking gargoyle. Why didn't they just do that for him before? Not turn him into a robot.
Yeah, for like 20 years or whatever. He's like, I've been crippled for so long.
You had a bath? Fix me?
I could have been a mutant this whole time.
Also love that this universe is so fucked up that the way he looks doesn't matter.
No.
Everyone's fine with it. Like, you just walk around Kingpin's old hideout.
Yeah.
He's like, Smythe, get in here.
Yeah.
Yes, Kingpin. He's like little clacky little hooves or whatever they are.
Well, the guy that replaced him is a literal Two-Face. He's got like little Two-Face hand and everything.
He always had Tombstone walking through there with his shark teeth, pale white.
In his fucking jumper pants. In his high collar, like Spawn collar coat.
Hell yeah.
God, what a great show.
Smythe.
Just kept him around after his father got blown to bits.
Oh, I want to be Smythe for Halloween, but mutant Smythe.
We should all be smart for Halloween.